Okay, um, let's go ahead and start here on explore number two of describing populations. You can see I've already drawn out our notes there. So draw your template for your Cornell note. Go ahead and put the date down and write down the essential question. What is the difference between density dependent and density independent factors? Okay, so we're talking about populations, and these are factors that affect your population demographic, whatever that demographic is. We might be talking about how many males versus females, how many old people versus young people, what the population density is, um, population size, uh, everything, right? Okay, so go ahead and take a moment, hit pause, write down what you know. And hopefully you wrote down a little bit about what you know there. So let's start with Roman numeral one. We'll talk about population demographics. Remember, and this is something I'm just reviewing with you, demographics are any way, any type of metric you use to measure a population. Maybe you're interested in knowing how many are college age kids or students, how many people make over uh, $25,000 a year. How many of the people are sports enthusiasts? Whatever the metric is, these are your demographics, right? Now, um, different factors will affect these demographics, and some of those factors are dependent on the density of your population. And some of those factors are not dependent on the relationship, how dense your population is. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Factors that affect population. Um, some of them are dependent on the size of the population, and some are independent, not dependent on the size of the population. So let's jump right into the first one, density dependent factors. These factors depend on um, on the density, right? Oh, also remember one other thing here. If you go back up to Roman number one, I said that population demographics are affected by a variety of factors, and conversely, population density can affect the factors. I want you to appreciate that it can kind of be a two-way road. Okay. So, density dependent factors, these have a greater effect on population demographics when the density increases. Think about when COVID was here or any other infectious disease. It was important that you don't come to school and be around other people because the more people you interacted with, the greater the spread. So this factor, COVID, it really depended on population density. If you had a lot of people in your house or your household, then you were going to see a greater spread of the disease. Okay, that's what we mean by density dependent factors. Food and water could fall under this category. Looking at number two here, let's just bring that up to the top there. The greater your resource, the bigger your population grows. If you have a lot of grassland, then you're going to see the population of deer or cattle explode, meaning they're going to grow because there's a lot of food for them. And if so, the food is a population dependent factor. It affects what's going to happen to that demographic, that population size. Now, conversely, if you have a very large population of deer, they're going to eat down your grass. And so that population, increased populations, is going to have an effect on that factor. So that's what I mean. It kind of has this bi-directional sort of relationship. Uh, let's talk about things that do not care whether you have a big population or not. The effect of a factor does not vary based on population size. Hurricanes. You have a big population, that's not going to change the number of hurricanes that you get in a year. And if you have a small population of people, that's not going to affect the number of hurricanes either, because hurricanes are a population independent factor. And this is a little stranger, but you could flip that around. How severe the effect of the hurricane is does not depend necessarily on population density. It's going to destroy the coastline. It's going to destroy whatever is alive. It doesn't care if there's one person there or 100 people there. Its effect is going to be just as lethal. It's going to kill, right? So that's kind of most of your natural disasters can fall into this density independent category. Non-infectious diseases, think cancer. This is letter B down here. As you can see, we're almost finished with the notes, so you're doing great, hanging in there. Cancer, it doesn't increase, the prevalence of cancer isn't going to increase because you're walking in a room with 500 people versus one person, not like the flu, right? So cancer is a density independent factor. It does not, it is not changed. Its prevalence is not changed based on the number of people, right? So take some time to read through your text there. As you can see, the first couple paragraphs are talk about things like predator-prey relationships. If you have a lot of prey, like deer, then you expect that you're going to have a lot of wolves, right? The number of predators is dependent on the number of prey. If you have too many wolves, that's going to drive down the deer population, and then there won't be enough food for the predator, the wolves. So then the predators will start to die off, and so you see this up and down cycle. That's called the predator-prey relationship. That is an example of a density-dependent factor. Okay, and that's what we're talking about. They're highlighted in red. In green, you see density-dependent factors are generally biotic or living components. Not all the time, right? Water is not a living thing, so that would be like an exception. But in general, density-dependent factors are biotic. And then you can see how halfway down the text, they switch gears. They talk about your density independent factors. They talk about weather events, natural disasters, humans polluting. Pollution is a density independent factor. It's going to affect everything, no matter whether it's a big population or small. And your population size is not going to have an effect on how bad pollution is, right? Like the effect of pollution. So that's those are examples of dependent versus independent. Okay, so make sure to watch videos and click on the hyperlinks of these vocabulary words if you need to drill down and get a little more detail. Otherwise, go ahead and write your summary paragraph and we'll talk to you soon, okay? All right, bye-bye.